everybody, Ty here, and for some of you, it's already about that time. Happy holidays. Thanksgiving is right around the corner. We're less than a week away, and some of you are already starting traveling. So we're going to be putting up this video to give everybody an idea of just what you can expect for your travel leading up to the Turkey Day itself here. So make sure you guys are hitting that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you're new around here, and also make sure you hit that share button as well. Love to get at least about 1,100 subs at the end of the year if it's at all possible. Definitely would appreciate any help I can get there. But as we look at the current radar picture, big topic of course has been a lot of the weather that's been going out towards the northwest. We still have atmospheric river conditions. This time we're starting to see a little bit more focus towards the Sierra Nevada region. And of course towards the far northwest we're still getting plenty of rain and snow in the higher elevations. Then we also have some winter weather ongoing over here towards the northeast. Anyone that ended up watching the football game last night, we actually ended up having a lake effect snow band go over Cleveland, causing nearly whiteout conditions. So it's fun to watch that. It's perfect football weather, but of course that only applies to my true football fans here. So we go further down the line though, one thing that we'll make note of here is severe weather threats are going to be rather minimal for the most part until maybe Thanksgiving Day itself, honestly. It's days 7 and 8 that are the most prominent right now, but even then I'm not making a big thing of those because of course these tags are predictability too low, and then they're also a week plus in advance at this point. A lot of things can change here. In regards to winter weather, and when we look at the screen here, really it's over towards the mid-Atlantic and northeast where we're going to have some snow, and then of course, as we mentioned before, this here Nevada's and the northwest. And if we roll through this little slide here, you can see that we're going to continue to see persistent snowfall mainly over towards the Rockies. Northeast, snow stays rather light. We're looking at snowfall probabilities up to about 1 inch here. So these are all percentages that you're looking at over here towards the left corner, this left side of the screen. But these are the highest probabilities, of course, as you've noticed, especially leading into the start of next week. Mainly going to be relegated mostly to the Rockies at this point. So looking at the models here, the big talk of the town is really going to be having a lot more to do with the temperatures. We're going to have a couple of pretty big cold snaps, and this is going to actually linger all the way into December. But if we look right now, as you can see, the jet stream looks pretty zonal, so this is going to help inhibit severe weather chances. There's going to be probably even a couple of days where we barely have any thunder even. But the thing is though, as we get towards the day itself, that's when we start to get a slight chance of some storm initiation over here towards the deep south. It could happen early in the day, with chances maybe increasing for a stronger storm or two, maybe towards the deep south around the early afternoon hours of Thanksgiving itself. After that point, a big cold front is expected to come through and bring the temperatures down, and this will be a large part how we end the month and even bring in December. Hard to believe that we're already towards the very end of the year at this point. So as we go further along here, we're setting up a classic positive PNA as we get into the first week of December here. And you can see just how far this trough really digs down, and that's kind of when my interest peaks maybe a little bit more for severe weather. Obviously 300 hours out, I can't put a whole lot of merit into that, but nonetheless, something that this is a little bit of a look that kind of captures my eye here. I wouldn't even call this a signal at this point, but nonetheless here, something else to keep an eye on as we go further along here. This is also just kind of for good measure showing more so the last part of that first week in November, and it does look like the pattern is going to try to get more active. Obviously at this point, looking at both GFS and Euro, a lot of variances as we get further towards the long range at this point. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at those dew points, kind of get an idea of what things could be like, really more so towards Thanksgiving Day itself. Like I said, really any chance of severe weather, any sort of signal that I would be looking for would be mainly relegated towards the deep south. It does look like we try to get a little bit of a moisture return going there. Timing is going to definitely be a big factor. So right now I would say at the most, if we were to get any kind of risk leading to the day of Thanksgiving, probably will be right now a marginal risk at most, and it'll be south of the Atlanta metro area, maybe towards southern Alabama, southern Georgia, maybe northern Florida even though it seems like a little bit of a stretch, the forcing seems to be definitely more towards south central Georgia, I would say at this point, and maybe south central Alabama. But we combine all of that together here. What we'll be taking a look at after that point is just watching how that moisture kind of retreats after this point. And then from beyond there, I'm looking for maybe a potential moisture return if we end up getting another deep diving trough like what we saw at the end of this model run here. So switch over to the Euro real quick also to kind of verify if there's going to be any chances of storm development here. I mean, I'm pretty confident that Thanksgiving Day in particular is going to be the best chances for severe storms, and maybe a couple chances before then. But the most notable activity, of course, like I said before, definitely leans into north central and south Georgia, with I think the higher severe probabilities being towards South Georgia. Keep in mind, we're still 156 hours out at this point. So with that being said, we can very easily see this flip on its head a bit, especially if we end up having some changes in the moisture return to go along with it. You can we're going to rewind it back, and that way we'll have the instability here correlating with the GFS in the bottom left corner here. And the signal isn't really all that strong. It does seem like there's instability a little bit further off to the south here, which is kind of why I was thinking that there would be some better severe chances combined with the moisture return. Really forcing is going to be the key question in all of this, and also surface temperatures, of course. We'll go ahead and take a look at those in just a moment before we get into the weather, until we get into like the precipitation and whatnot. But I clicked the wrong thing. But in any case though, you can watch as this major area of cold air starts to really seep in as we get further towards Thanksgiving holiday itself here. You can see the frontal boundary pretty clearly here on the surface temperature map. I can actually draw this out for you right here. Look at the line right here out ahead of where the black line is. You can see the temperatures in the 60s, some 70s closer towards the coast. And then behind that, you can see the 40s kind of dropping off. And then it's not a tight gradient, but once you get further back towards like Illinois and Wisconsin, that's where you see those 20s and 30s. And then further up north towards maybe Montana and North Dakota, we're starting to actually dip into those single digit temperature, even some below zero action starting to come into play here. So that being said, major cold air on the way for the holidays here. So definitely need to be on watch for that. Here's Thanksgiving Day. Like I said, given all the parameters that we have over here towards the deep south, like I said, over towards southern Georgia and Alabama, I think that's where our best chance of severe weather is. From that point, like I said, we're going to lose the moisture. We're going to really start to tap into that cold air. Even down into Alabama, Georgia, and Mississippi, we could have some frost and freeze advisories issued. Right now, it's a little too far out in advance to be issuing that, but definitely been seeing a good bit of model agreement and a good bit of models themselves showing this kind of scenario coming into play. If we had any real kind of moisture source to go along with this, there would even be some southern snowfall here. But I think for the most part, the storm track is going to mainly remain to the north. But as we go further along here, you can see that eventually we start to get out of the cold snap towards the very end of the model run here, but not before we start seeing those single digit temperatures coming into play here towards the northeast, and the south starting to deal with a little bit more of a freeze before all is said and done here. I also think that the lake effect machine is going to come into effect a little bit further before we're done with this model run that leads up to the 8th of December here. So that being said, a lot to keep track of here. We'll go ahead and verify some of the thoughts here with this last model that we're looking at here. And then we'll also take a look at some snowfall totals beyond that point. As you can see here, Northwest is very active. Atmospheric river conditions are set to continue throughout a good chunk of the weekend. We finally may see a break as we get towards Thanksgiving holiday itself over there. A little further off towards the southern half of the state is where southern half of California is where things start to slow down before another system looks like it tries to come in and bring a little bit more in the way of snow before we're finally done with that. So really, atmospheric river conditions are going to still be pretty persistent across the region as we head towards the holiday. Now, as we go further along, this low pressure that caused some of the more significant snowfall over towards the Ohio Valley is eventually going to move out probably by tomorrow. And we're going to warm up pretty quickly over here towards the northeast. So as a result, a lot of that snow that we've seen fall here is probably going to melt pretty quick. We do end up seeing another system coming into play here. May cause a little bit of light snow over here towards the UP of Michigan and maybe north central Michigan to go along with it. But this is really just kind of a precursor to the main event, so to speak. Here is Thanksgiving Day, where we have that severe weather threat. As those storms march further to the south here, that's why I think those severe weather chances kind of come into play. This kind of has the look of a linear event right now, but we'll just have to see how things play out from that point. If things get more notable with this setup, then I'll probably make more videos just focusing on that in particular. But as we go further along here, these blue lines here, this is the 32-degree line, this first line here, and after that point, that's where you know the temperatures are cold. Starting to see a couple of clipper systems even coming into play, so we're getting closer and closer to being in that winter style setup that we're accustomed to across the lower 48. Here's a classic case though of that positive PNA as we mentioned before, and this is an interesting little look right here that we've seen from the GFS in particular. Euro hasn't quite been as hot with this as of right now, but nonetheless something I'm very much intrigued with. Still wouldn't call it a signal at this point, but we could see a few flurries flying around towards maybe the Carolinas, maybe even far north Georgia here for December 4th, maybe into the 5th. It's definitely a wild card at this point. Then of course here's another clipper system, and this is when I think the lake effect machine really starts to come in from this point. So like I said, a lot we're going to be keeping track of here, even though at this point we're 300 hours out, and you know what I always say around this time frame, snowman's land. But nonetheless here, if we look over towards the Midwest and maybe the Great Lakes here, it looks like more action is in store here. So busy times ahead for the channel. We'll go ahead and take a final look at these snowfall totals. This is what we could see over the course of the next week. Of course, as we mentioned before, the main bullseye is going to be over towards the Rocky Mountains in the northwest. Northeast does look like it gets into the action over the course of the next week, so anyone that is traveling over here towards these regions, just be ready for wintry conditions. For a lot of you folks here, this is nothing unfamiliar, so I'm sure you know how to navigate it. Just of course do so with caution. But yeah, no matter which model we look at here out of the four that we have available, it does look like the bullseye is mainly over towards the Rockies. Do have a good bit of action, mainly from this setup that we have ongoing here towards the mid-Atlantic and the northeast. By the time we get towards the holiday itself, a lot of this probably will have melted though. That being said, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you smash that like button, make sure you decimate that subscribe button, obliterate that share button, and I will see you guys in the next one. Till then, take care and have an awesome rest of your evening.